Big news regarding free agent wide receiver Stefon Diggs. The Texans are likely to move on from him. He was a great locker room presence for the team last season, but unfortunately, the team is going to most likely part ways with Stefon Diggs. If you're new to Texans Digest, we're going to break down why this move is pretty detrimental to the Texans' offseason plans. If you're new, sub to the channel, but for right now, Stefon Diggs is planning to enter free agency, and it makes sense, right? Let me know what you guys think, but 31 years old, coming off a torn ACL, the only real reason you would bring him back is if he would want to come back as a veteran on a nice little cheap contract, 1 year, 10, 15 million. The problem is Diggs doesn't want to do that, and when you have a receiver who has a lot of interest like Stefon Diggs, the Texans are open to bringing him back for the right price, let's keep in mind. However, Diggs, rightfully, he's going to get some other offers. I feel like it's a similar Keenan Allen situation to where you can tell he's older, you can tell he's lost a step, but we're going to let him go test the market, and he'll probably go get a deal with the Chargers or the Bills. That sounds stupid because why would he go back to the Bills? But he'll get an offer with a team that desperately needs a wide receiver like the Patriots, maybe the Bears. I'm not sure who's going to be desperate to go get Diggs, but he's going to get offered the big bucks, which I think is kind of ridiculous. If you're going to pay a 31-year-old wide receiver, who's turning 32, by the way, ACL tear, is he going to be the same guy he once was? And that's the thing. Some teams might not need him to be the same guy. You might just need him to be the veteran presence in the locker room, teach these young guys a thing or two. But Diggs is on his way out, and I 100% agree with Nick Caserio in not bringing him back. It was a great idea. Let Diggs test free agency. He's going to get paid a lot of money, and right now, the reports are the Texans could go after a wide receiver in the draft. You got guard that you need help with. There's a couple things that the Texans need to address, and one thing is not to worry about a veteran wide receiver who's going to take a chunk of money to just stay on the roster when you don't have a bunch of money to begin with. The Texans only really have about 10, 15 million cap space. They just made that move with DeMeco Collins. Why would you re-sign Stefon Diggs? If it's for the right price, yes. But that doesn't help the Texans. I would rather sign Chris Godwin or Chris Godwin, even Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, because those veteran guys that I just listed, not Godwin, but D-Hops of the world and all the stuff like that, those are one-year contracts where we can get maybe $10 million. And that's the thing, my ideal candidate for a wide receiver right now is a route runner that can kind of complement DeMeco Collins, right? And who could do that really well? Maybe the Chris Godwins of the world, the great route runners who can get open and find ways to get things done. I think right now, if the Texans wanted to, they could go out and give Chris Godwin $15, $20 million a year, and he could be doing well. Hey, the Jags just released Christian Kirk. We could go out and get him as a slot receiver or a good route runner. All you need is a secondary player to DeMeco Collins, and I say that because Tank Dell is done for the season. We saw the ACL news. That's not good. Diggs now on top of that, leaving, and then there's rumors we're going to trade for DK Metcalf. Probably not, but the rumors is more about what do the Texans do at wide receiver, and is it in the draft? Is it there's so many things you could do this offseason, and letting Stefon Diggs test free agency is probably the best thing to do. He was on pace for an 1,000-yard season, 47 catches, 496 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did pretty well. 8 weeks through the season, he just couldn't make it the whole way through. Now, if Diggs doesn't get hurt, if the Texans don't fire offense, maybe there's a chance they bring him back. But with the way the offense is going in a new system with Nick Caley, the Rams passing game coordinator, there's a very good possibility this could be a whole new team for next season. Now, Nick Caserio is already starting to make moves. He's made a contract restructuring on DeMeco Collins. This is going to be a run pass team. I really don't know how the offense is going to look because the Rams ran it so much last season that I would expect something similar. However, the play calls between Slowick and Caley can't get much worse, and Slowick was great in year 1, but the year 2 compares, I don't know what he was doing, but there were so many different play calls that Bobby Slowick it took forever to develop. Nobody could get open, and you could see it got worse and worse when Tank Dell was the number 1 wide receiver because DeMeco Collins pulled his hamstring and he was out for 4 weeks. But you need somebody else than DeMeco Collins, and whether you trade for a guy like, I would love to get a Garrett Wilson. I would love to get a T. Higgins. I would love to get a DK Metcalf. It's just not likely. So if you can find Cooper Kupp on a cheap deal, or D-Hop on a cheap deal, or maybe Jawan Jennings, that's not a bad option. I'm just trying to think hypothetically, what do the Texans do? And slowly but surely, they're creeping their way to going out and getting a big name wide receiver, right? Nick Caserio knows what he's doing. He's continuing to make adjustments, and it's all a matter of what happens. And I know I keep saying that, but it's like I can't quite put my finger on it because there's so many other teams that are negative and badly in debt in terms of cap space, negative millions of dollars. And it's like you can cut players. You can restructure deals. You could ask somebody, hey, do you mind if I give you a signing bonus now? That way that moves the contract around so we can have some cap space right now ready to go. Caserio is a mastermind behind it, and when he goes and calls Laremy Tunsil and says, hey, can we restructure your contract? Maybe. All right, great. Or he calls Shaq Mason and says, hey, you're getting paid way too much money to be a veteran 31-year-old guard. Can you restructure your deal or we're going to cut you? Yeah, okay. You don't want to? All right, we'll cut. And click. But there's so many different things that you can do as the GM and Nick Caserio. Right now, my ideal candidate at wide receiver, I would have to say Emeka Egbuka. You don't have many crazy good options that you can go out and get in free agency. If you're going to go out and get a veteran, go get an offensive guard. Go get a Kevin Zeitler of the world. Somebody who can be consistent, productive, and do his job. Maybe James Daniels, a guy who's, again, could be an injury risk, but he's cheaper. And he's on a prove-it deal. 1 year, $10 million, $12 million. And when you're on a $1 million, it doesn't really affect the salary cap that much, depending on what you guarantee them. So, again, salary cap in general is really weird. The way GMs can kind of bypass that sometimes, it still confuses me to this day, because somehow the Saints were in negative money, and they were able to restructure like 8 different contracts and still sign Derek Carr with a massive contract and give him a massive signing bonus. I don't even know how that happened, but now they're in cap hell, and it was a terrible idea in retrospect. So right now the Texans are in a tough situation, and not bringing back Stefon Diggs is definitely the right move. It's just a question of now what? Now what do we do? We don't have any real big cap space. We can't really make any big time moves. Trey Smith has gone off the market. There's not any crazy big guards or linemen to sign. You could go get Mekhi Becton from the Eagles, who kind of revived his career by going there for 1 year and being productive. So questions are everywhere. You need depth on defense. You need depth in the secondary. You need depth on the D-line. That's kind of a secondary thought, though, because the O-line and the receiver are the two things that need the most. I feel like I'm repeating myself in every video, but this is huge. The Texans are done with Stefon Diggs, and as much as I would hate to see him go, he was only there for 1 year, and I know Texans fans last year saw the news and it was like, oh, Stefon Diggs, and then he never played like his former self, so it's a little bit bittersweet, but I'm happy to get rid of him only because of the knee injury. It was definitely not the right idea to keep him. I was actually expecting the Texans to keep him as a veteran, but smart guy and Nick Caserio being able to know what his price tag is, because I've just seen him overpay a lot of guys like Laremy Tunsil in that big contract. Nico Collins, that was a good idea because he got in early, and all these receivers are getting 30+ million. So maybe the Texans can go get a number 2 like Christian Kirk, a number 2 like Devontae Adams, or somebody on a cheap contract and fill the wide receiver 2 role. If not, you got offensive linemen you need. You got a lot of other different positions. So quick little recap on Stefon Diggs. And I know it's a tough one because we already kind of seen this kind of unfolding, but I feel like I have to put the news out there officially. So that's the video for today. Stefon Diggs, done with the team. Texans have to figure out the next plans because they're definitely going to go get a wide receiver. It's just a question of who and how and when, and are they going to get some more salary? So there's still a lot of questions to be answered. But March 12th begins free agency. We're going to talk a lot more Texans news. If you haven't subbed to the channel, really appreciate all the support. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.